6:30 p.m. in the Urban Design Commission meeting for May 14th, 2014 is now called to order. Can we get a roll call?
Mr. Sawhill.
Here.
Mr. Tybor. Ms. Sullivan.
Here.
Ms. Emerton.
Here.
Mr. Winchester. Here. Ms. Ream.
Here.
Mr. Condon.
Here.
Mr. Leonetti.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion for approval for the minutes that are on the agenda? We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Sawhill. Can I get a second? And a seconded by Commissioner Condon. Is there any discussion? Any edits? Okay. Minutes are approved. Do we have any disclosures for this evening?
Madam Chair, I would like to disclose that I am an employee of the University of Alaska Anchorage. I'm a professor of architectural and engineering technology, and I know that we have a project for UAA coming before the Commission.
Can you specify which case that is?
That would be the Sky Bridge between the engineering building and the the health sciences building.
So case 2014-0062?
Yes, I believe so.
And so are you requesting to be recused?
I'm not sure that I need to be recused. I don't have any input into the planning of such facilities at the university, and I don't have any sway over design or implementation of such work.
Okay. Can I get a motion to direct Commissioner Condon to participate in case 2014-0062? It's been motioned by Commissioner Sullivan and seconded by Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Sullivan, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would like to move towards him participating in case 2014-0062, since he has no financial engage.
Commissioner Winchester, would you care to speak to your second?
Yeah, similar. No financial interest and no real direct interest in the project at all, so I support the motion.
Is there any additional discussion?
Madam Chair, I guess I'm a little troubled, with this disclosure because his employer has applied for this approval, and so I understand he doesn't have a direct financial interest in this, but I don't know how you vote against your employer. It's a marginal call for me. So I guess I will not be supporting the motion.
Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I share the same concerns that Mr. Sawhill just stated, and I will not be supporting his participation.
Can everybody please vote on directing Commissioner Condon to participate? Commissioner Condon, it has failed. You've been directed not to participate in this case. Do we have any additional disclosures for this evening? Commissioner Leonetti?
Madam Chair, I have two disclosures for both cases, and I'll just run through it here, and we can vote if we need to, and you guys will direct me and interrupt if you need to. So for case number 2013-141, I've had professional affiliations with the Prime Design Consultant Project Manager. I have no financial interest in the case at hand. For case number 2014-0062, my firm has had business dealings with the petitioner's representative on other matters. My firm currently has business dealings with the consultant on other matters. I am a former employee of the petitioner's representative. I'm a former resident of the University Area Community Council, and I have no financial or personal interest in the matter. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. Can I get a motion to direct Commissioner Leonetti to participate in both cases? Do we have to do that one at a time? Okay. It was motioned by Commissioner Sahil and seconded by Commissioner Ream. Commissioner Sahil, would you care to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I intend to support the motion. I don't believe that Commissioner Leonetti has a financial interest, and I think he can act impartially in this case, and I encourage the other members to support it also.
Commissioner Ream, would you care to speak to your second?
I just concur with that.
Is there any additional discussion? Did you want to speak? Not on there. Okay. Okay. Can everybody please vote to direct Commissioner Leonetti to participate? Commissioner Leonetti, you've been directed to participate in both cases. Okay. And additional disclosures, Commissioner Ream?
Yes. Thank you. I just need to disclose that I am currently working with the firms for both of these cases, Dell and USKH, for case 2013-141 and 2014-0062. But the projects that I am currently working with these contractors on is not affiliated with these projects, so I don't have any financial or personal interest in these projects.
Can I get a motion to direct Commissioner Ream to participate in both cases? Anybody? It's been motioned by Commissioner Sahil and seconded by Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Sahil, would you care to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I intend to support the motion. I would find that Commissioner Ream doesn't have any financial interest in here, and I believe she could act fairly and impartially in both the cases. Thank you.
Commissioner Winchester, would you like to speak to your second?
Just support the same reasons that no financial interest.
Is there any additional discussion? Okay. Hearing no objections, you have been directed to participate. Okay. And final disclosures, Commissioner Sahil?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In case 2013-141, the final site plan review for the Eagle River High School, I'm currently working on the replat of the Eagle River High School and the design of Yosemite Drive, and I have a conflict of interest, and it would be inappropriate for me to participate in that case, and I would like to be recused.
Can I get a motion to direct Commissioner Sahil to participate in case 2013-141? It has been motioned by Commissioner Sullivan and seconded by Commissioner Ream. Commissioner Sullivan, would you like to speak to your motion? We have to. Would you care to speak about your motion, like why you might not want him to? Okay. And Commissioner Ream, would you like to speak to your second?
I also believe that he has a conflict of interest, and it would not support the motion for him to participate. I think he should recuse himself.
Is there any additional discussion? Can everybody please vote? Commissioner Sahil, you've been directed not to participate in case 2013-141. Do we have any additional disclosures for this evening? Okay. Hearing none, we move on to the annual election of officers. So we have to Commissioner Sullivan? Sure. We have a motion to reorder the agenda to have that at the end of the meeting. Can I get a second? Or do we even have motions on there? Okay, I'm going to say you seconded. It's been seconded by Commissioner Winchester. Any objection? Any discussion? Okay, that has been moved to the end of the meeting. So, moving on to the consent agenda. Case 2013-026 will be pulled from the consent agenda as we do not have a quorum to approve that. Can I get a motion to approve the remaining pieces of the consent agenda? Can I get a second to approve? It has been motioned by Commissioner Sahil and seconded by Commissioner Sullivan. Commissioner Sahil, would you like to speak to your motion? Okay. Commissioner Sullivan, would you like to speak to your second?
I concur with that.
Okay. Is there any additional discussion? Consent agenda is approved. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Leonetti. I saw it there.
Thanks. I was just curious. This has been on the consent agenda for the last 5 months. At what point do we progress past not a quorum and have commissioners review the notes and listen to the audio so that we are actively approving consent agenda items? I mean, it seems, if I was a petitioner, I'd be a little bit irritated that it has not been approved.
Through the chair, Mr. Leonetti, when there is the possibility of having the total quorum of the original quorum that was here to sign to approve the resolution, we have to postpone for that quorum. If that member is no longer, you would never establish a quorum again of the original ones, then you could just pass it automatically. But Tom is missing, and that would have made the 5. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any additional discussion? Okay. Remaining items on consent agenda are approved. Okay. So now we're moving on to the regular agenda. This will also open the public hearing portion of our meeting. I'm going to now read the procedure by which you may speak to the Urban Design Commission. After the staff presentation is completed on public hearings, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Urban Design Commission's rules of procedures. Petitioners, including all of his or her representatives, have 10 minutes. Rebuttal by the petitioner may be allowed when time has been reserved. Representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs, etc. will have 5 minutes. Individuals will have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the Commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the Commission. An individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Urban Design Commission takes, except Commission recommendations to the Assembly, which are not appealable. Appeals must be filed with the Clerk's Office within 20 days after approval by the Urban Design Commission of the resolution, which is the Commission's final decision. A fee for the appeal is required at the time of filing. An individual may request written findings from any Commission decision within 7 days. So now we are on case 2013-141. And Commissioner Sawhill has left, and Commissioner Sawhill has left. Do we have a staff presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a final approval of the amended site plan for athletic facility improvements for Eagle River High School. The Anchorage School District seeks project approval for the addition of bleachers, lighting, a public address system, and related amenities. The improvements also include adding lighting to existing skiing running trails. The high school is subject to the Chugiak Eagle River Comprehensive Plan update. The submittal on page 5 of their submittal, which is page 37 of your packet, shows a table A, and it's a listing of the policies from that plan that this project conforms to. Staff, staff concurs with the project's conformance with these policies. Some public comments were raised indicating that the site improvements will increase traffic and create a higher parking demand than the number of spaces provided. To this end, Martin Lang, who's the principal of Eagle River High School, submitted a letter dated October 31st, 2013 that describes the parking situation occurring at most football events. The design consultants on page 8 of your packet submitted a new layout of the porta potties position, as the earlier submittal had them placed too close together, so that's a slight redesign. And the field improvements are compatible with the intent of its zoning district, which is PLI. Schools are permitted principal uses and structures in the PLI district. Sports facilities are integral uses and structures typically found in high schools. Now about the seating for the bleacher seatings in relationship to the parking. The visitor stands will accommodate 400 spectators, while the home team stands will accommodate 1,100 for a total of 1,500. At the concept review, the petitioner stated there were 774 parking spaces on site, which would allow a seating capacity of 1,496. Since that time, they've had a recount of the parking spaces, and it indicates that they have 380 parking spaces, another 6 than what they originally thought. This allows a seating capacity of 1,520. Project management and engineering has a contract that is in process of being finalized to complete the design of Yosemite Drive to urban collector standards. A request for funding to upgrade the road is part of the next legislative session. The final plat for the school property is in process for submittal. That's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay. Hearing no questions, would the petitioner please come forward and state your name and spell it for the record?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, my name is Dwayne Adams, D-W-A-Y-N-E, representing the school district in this case. We also have members of the school district as well as the design team who maybe answer questions, as well as Mr. Martin Lang, who's the principal of the school, if you have questions that relate to the school or his paper that you have before you. You've seen this before. We're coming back to you. As staff has reported, we complied with the conditions of approval. Page 38, 39 mentions a little more specifically that what we've done to comply, and as staff said in her analysis, we certainly have complied. So with respect to that, I really don't need to discuss it much further, but I'm happy to answer questions you might have.
Do we have any questions for the petitioner? I don't think we do.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public wishing to testify? If you would like to, please come forward. State and spell your name for the record.
Hi, my name is José Vicente. I'm the developer of Eagle Point subdivision, the subdivision adjacent to the high school. I'm here to recommend that you approve the site plan subject to the improvement of Yosemite Drive to urban collector standards, as was originally required, additional parking to meet the demand that bleachers will create, and also subject to filing the final plat. That high school, the building was constructed illegally. It was constructed over several property lines. None of you will be able to get the permit to construct a single-family home over an existing property line. The reason for that fault was the fact that the school district failed to file the final plat because they did not want and still do not want to construct Yosemite Drive to urban collector standards. The staff made stated that there is an agreement between the school district and the municipality to design the road. That agreement can be thrown in the garbage can tomorrow. At this point, at this moment, the platting board did not require the school district to construct Yosemite Drive when they reapproved the preliminary plat 3 months ago. The reason it was not reapproved is because the staff failed to recommend the construction of that road because they were so directed by the administration. It's very, very tragic, the present situation. The parking, everybody who has gone to a football game, high school football game, in a standard high school with 1,600 students realize that all parking, the entire parking lot is full. And they have parking for 1,600 students. This high school only has parking for 800. We need additional parking if you're going to construct the bleachers. The final plat, by the way, I'm appealing the decision of the platting board. That my appeal will not be heard probably for another month or so. I hope I prevail. I prevailed before on that. I went all the way to the Supreme Court, Supreme Court, who clearly decided that the school district has to follow the municipal regulations, including Title 21. It is tragic that this administration does not require the school district to follow those requirements. And I understand the staff because they have openly, some of them openly told me that they're directed by administration. Well,
Okay,
they
so
should have been
that's
strong
all the
enough
time-
to listen.
That's all the time you have. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any questions? Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Please state and spell your name for the record.
Hey, my name is Bobby Stone. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y.
Can you speak in the microphone? Go to the... Nope.
Here,
There you
let me
go.
try again.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got to wake up. It's been a long day. But my name is Bobby Stone, B-O-B-B-Y-S-T-O-N-E, and I'm the Stadium Committee Chair and have been for several years in order to get the project done. And we came and talked in force last time, as you can imagine. We didn't know it was going to be an open hearing tonight, or there would have been a lot more people here in order to speak. And I don't know whether you'd want that or not, but we've been saying most of the same thing. But I will tell you that the legislator is in the room tonight in order to support, to show her support for the stadium. And she did tell us that there is about $1 million that they're putting towards the drainage, and the number one priority for the legislature for Eagle River this year was that actual Yosemite Drive collector status. And they've got that in the budget for $8 million, and right now it's in front of the governor for signature. So that's being worked, and I'm hoping that this project won't be held hostage for that. And everything right now that's happening to hold up the stadium is just going to impact those kids for one more year. And all of the appeals that we expect and everything is just going to take away from what that final project is supposed to be and what it's supposed to do for that community and for those kids. So I'm hoping that all the effort that I'm hearing tonight from the other is not going to stop this from moving forward. And, you know, we've also got a letter from the homeowners. He's not speaking for the Homeowners Association. We have a letter from them stating that they actually support the project. So we've gotten that since the last meeting. At the last meeting, I also talked about Southport Community Council gave us a letter showing their support for the project. So, and that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Do we have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would anybody else like to speak? Do you have a rebuttal?
Do I get my full 9 minutes? Okay, thank you. I think you've heard the arguments that have been put forth by one of the speakers tonight before. While he may or may not have some valid concerns, it's not germane to the project. We validated that it does meet the parking requirements, that there is a management plan, that the school does deal adequately with that parking. Certainly, we could have brought more people. This would usually be on the consent agenda. It was advertised public process, and appropriately or public hearing, and you very appropriately are hearing it, and certainly we could have mobilized. But that's not appropriate, because what is the question is whether it does comply with those conditions of approval. We've answered that question. Staff has supported that, and hopefully you will too. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, Mr. Adams.
Hello, Ms. Leonetti. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you for responding to the conditions that we had in the previous case before us. I appreciate that. I read through the packet, and I think that a lot of the concerns that I had are validated, or not validated, but are answered, and there aren't any concerns that are really on the docket that I have. I do have a couple of questions. The schedule, I'm sure it's in here and I overlooked it. Are you guys considering constructing this year, or what is the schedule for the actual bleachers?
It's going out to bid relatively soon, within the next week or so.
So 2014?
Now it's going out to bid right now.
Okay, so it'll be built this summer, probably.
Yes, that's the answer.
And then I didn't see the letters. I'm interested in the letters that the previous gentleman, you referred to.
Mr. Lang?
Nope, Mr. Stone referred to from the community councils. Are they in the case packet and I overlooked them? That would be good to have.
No, through the chair, Mr. Leonetti, I could look through the packet of, the first submittal, but that's usually when we would have received those comments where it would be at the first submittal for the concept review.
And that would be good if you could locate those. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Winchester.
Yes, I guess understand, Mr. Adams, that the road isn't necessarily a condition or a participant in this particular situation, and we've heard that legislative action may be making. Where is the school district on this particular issue in terms of improving that road? I mean, obviously they're applying for money, but is there impetus, is there resolution on the part of the school board or others to see this as a priority?
Well, it has always been a condition of approval. They are now moving in that direction since we last met. In fact, as Mr. Stone mentioned, they've acquired funding. They are moving forward. We're missing a commissioner, in fact, because he's working on that project. So it's moving forward. School districts fully supports it. Doesn't matter. It was a condition of approval, and they're moving forward to conformance with that requirement.
As a condition approval of this?
Not of this, of earlier action. The Mr. Vicente spoke to a previous requirement, and they're moving forward. This is Ms. Knapp, who can address it better.
Thank you.
Can you please state and spell your name?
Hi, my name is Edie Knapp, E-D-I-E-K-N-A-P-P. I'm the construction manager at the Anchorage School District. And the grant request that went in this year for $8 million, well, we put in for $6 million and the city put in for additional money, was the #1 priority from the superintendent's office. So the school district does have full intention of doing the road as required by the plating board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anything further from staff? Nothing? No? Okay. So that will close the public hearing portion for this case. The matter now rests with the commission. Can I get a motion to approve? It has been motioned to approve by Commissioner Leonetti and seconded by Commissioner Sullivan. Commissioner Leonetti, would you please speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve case number 2013-141, final approval of the amended site plan for athletic facility improvements, Eagle River High School.
And would you like to speak to your motion?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I intend to support the motion, and I have some findings of facts that I would like to state, and I believe that happens now. So, fact number 1. The school is located on Yosemite Drive in Eagle River, and the school site is zoned PLI. The high school was constructed in 2005 on a 45-acre site. Number 2, the purpose of the project is for the addition of bleachers, lighting, and public address systems and related amenities such as a concession stand, press box, and illuminating flagpole to allow the school to host athletic facilities at the existing football soccer field. Number 3, the high school is subject to the Chugach Eagle River Comprehensive Plan update dated 2006 and is in conformance with that plan. Number 4, the site improvements will not have an effect on adjacent areas as the site is bordered with forested areas. The school is bordered on the west by state DNR facility and the MOA Department of Public Works storage area. The Highland Mountain Correctional Center is located to the northwest of the school site. Each of these sites has a buffer of native vegetation separating their respective sites from the school. A residential development, Eagle Point, is located to the east along Yellowstone Drive. There is a 100-foot wide non-disturbance vegetated buffer located on the eastern property line, intended to act as a buffer between the school and the Eagle Point subdivision. A closed solid waste landfill is to the south. Number 5, all needed public utilities are available to the project. Number 6, stadium lights and, stand by. Number 6, the school building is located between the fields and the residence, which aids in blocking of artificial lights and sound emanating from the football field. Number 7, the field improvements are compatible with the intent of its zoning district, which is PLI, Public Lands and Institutions. Schools are permitted principal uses and structures in the PLI district. Sports facilities are integral uses and structures typically found in high schools. Number 8, there are a total of 380 parking stalls on site. Anchorage Municipal Code 2145080F requires 1 parking space for every 4 seats, which allows seating for 1,500 spectators. The visitors stand will accommodate 400 spectators, and the home team stands will accommodate 1,100 for a total of 1,500 spectators. Number 9, Municipality of Anchorage Public Project Management and Engineering is finalizing the design to upgrade Yosemite Drive to an urban collector standard. A funding request to upgrade the road is part of the next legislative session. Number 10, the final plat for the school property is in process for submittal. And that's the final one that I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. Commissioner Sullivan, would you like to speak to your second?
No, I support the motion, subject to the recommendations 1 to 3 and all Commissioner Ed Leonelli findings.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? No? Any objections? Okay. Case 2013-141 passes. Okay, so we'll move on to case 2014-142, 24-0062. And we need Commissioner Saul. Yeah. And Commissioner Condon, you'll have to step out. Okay. Yeah, that's cute. Again, this is for case 2014-0062. Can we get a staff report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a public facility site plan review for the UAA Health Campus pedestrian bridge being reviewed under AMC 21-10-028, allowing the Urban Design Commission to review and decide upon public facility project landscaping plans in accordance with Section 21-15-025 and review and decide upon public facility site plans as determined in Section 21-15-015. Also, AMC 21-15-015G standards site plan for consistency. The Commission shall review site plan for consistency with the comprehensive plan and other municipal plans. The University of Alaska Anchorage is proposing to construct a pedestrian bridge spanning Providence Drive, connecting the UAA Health Sciences Building, located between Piper Street and Spirit Drive, to the new UAA Engineering and Industry Building, also known as EIB, located on the north side of Providence Drive. The southwest corner of the new engineering building was designed to accommodate a future pedestrian sky bridge across Providence Drive, linking the two structures. The pedestrian bridge will be the first span across Providence Drive. The Skywalk pedestrian bridge will be an enclosed, climate-controlled pedestrian bridge spanning approximately 224 feet to connect the second level of the HSB, which is the Health Science Building, with the third level of the EIB, which is the Engineering Building. The bottom of the bridge structure ranges from approximately 24 to 26 feet on average above the roadway surface. The building-to-building span is going to be 224 feet approximately. The height to the apex of the arch is approximately 60 feet above the roadway, while the height to the bottom of the sky bridge above the roadway is approximately 25 feet. The impacts to the right-of-way is there's no permanent use of the right-of-way. 2 street lamps are going to be relocated by the project. A few trees in the median and north right-of-way are to be replaced or relocated, and will provide a safe, weather-protected travel across Providence Drive for pedestrians. The design of the Skywalk, the features include suspended from an arch support structure. The east and west sides are floor-to-ceiling, high-transparency glass. The bridge will be structurally independent of the 2 buildings it connects, as well as fully sprinklered. The exterior cladding, colors, and roof assembly will relate to both the health science and engineering buildings, and provisions for video surveillance or closed-circuit TV will be provided. Exterior light levels for the roadway and pedestrian sidewalks will be maintained. They're going to adjust the light poles to the level required. The UA Engineering Building Automation System will be extended into the Skywalk to control the light fixtures. The project cost for this sky bridge is constructed of a budget of $4.5 million with approximately $109,000 for landscaping. It's to begin in August 2014, with the final phase of the project being the installation of the landscaping occurring mid-July 2015. This project conforms to the policies found in AMC 21-15-25 for public facility project landscaping review. The support structures will be located outside the right-of-way, eliminating the need for central supports in the median. The existing landscaping is being preserved to the greatest extent possible. Trees that have to be removed are proposed to be transplanted along north and south side of Providence Drive. The plans indicate that some of the trees are to be transplanted, removed, or replaced. Staff asks that the trees that are removed need to be replaced on a one-for-one basis, and this landscaping plan needs to indicate the location of these planted trees. Tree and shrub plantings will highlight the new bridge development, keeping character with the overall landscape feel of the roadway corridor. The site plan review also meets the standards found in 2115-015G. The various policies in the comprehensive plan, number 7, 30, 23, 37, 42, and 44. These address the procurement for art, pedestrian-oriented environment, northern city design concepts, and long-term public improvements for both the comprehensive plan and the UMed district master plan. The conformity to the requirements for Title 21, the petitioners address the requirements of the PLI district, which with the department concurs. The Sky Bridge is a planned pedestrian link between the north and south campus in the University of Alaska Anchorage Campus Master Plan. The overpass will create a safer year-round pedestrian environment and may reduce the vehicular trips across Providence by drive, traveling from one side of the campus to the other side. With that being said, the department recommends final approval of the site and landscaping plan for the UAA Health Campus Pedestrian Bridge, subject to the conditions 1 through 6 found on staff packet, page 9. These comprise some of the amendments to the drafting discrepancies found on some sheets, clarifying landscaping and obtaining and working with the proper agencies for construction in the rights-of-way and the associated utilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, looks like we don't. Would the petitioner please come forward? And please state and spell your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Michelle Ritter. I'm with Dow HKM. I'm representing UAA. With me this evening is also two of the architects from Livingston Sloan who worked on the design of the bridge. And this structural was designed by Middleton Reed. And also from Dow HKM is Tanya Hickok. So staff did a pretty good comprehensive overview of the design of the project, so I won't go into much more on that, except for this has been a vision of UAA's for a long time. The funding hasn't always been there. So when they were actually designing the health science building and the engineering building, the bridge was in mind, so both buildings were built with that consideration, so it should fit seamlessly with those two buildings. It is considered the gateway to the university, so a lot of care went into the design. We're really happy with the arch approach and the transparency to not block the view of the mountains, which was something that we definitely heard from the community. With that, we have read the conditions of approval. We agree with everything that staff has put in writing. I do want to note that the structural support legs will be outside of the pathway, and we will revise all the plans to show that. And additionally, staff had alerted us to AWU's comments, and so we have already started coordination with them, and all the other conditions will be met as well.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the petitioner? Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's see here. Where's my notes? Do you know the size of or the type of material being transplanted? I happened to be in the neck of the woods today and yesterday and the day before, and it seems like there's a considerable amount of vegetation in the median as well as on the north side of the road. The south side there's a little bit less, but there's like 4 trees being transplanted.
There are on the plans they do show about 4 trees to be transplanted. Are you asking, I guess, how many have been removed to date?
No,
or,
just like so you guys are transplanting 4 and then the rest of them are going to be removed.
Any trees removed will be replaced on a 1-to-1 basis, so there will be no net loss of any vegetation.
And that count has not happened yet, is what I understand.
Correct, it's being finalized. They actually have, we're not with the final design plan, but it will be.
And you guys are coming before us tonight?
And I'd like to I would like to check in with Paul to make sure that's.
Yeah.
As of the last.
I'm Paul Doherty, Paul Daugherty, with Livingston Sloan. We have submitted drawings for building permit, and the landscape plans have been modified and resubmitted to indicate which trees are being transplanted and which trees are being replaced. And the intent is a one-to-one. And we've seen the additional comments about the size of some of the other plant material, and that's not a problem. Those are being corrected.
Do you know what size the vegetation is being replanted at?
I don't know the specific size of it. There was quite a bit of coordination with the contractor for their need for access to the site and what material was going to be removed. And Kevin Donier with Corvus has been working very closely with them and has developed those documents. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then on that note, the drawings, the L101 and L501, show vegetation transplanted and the such. And it says there's a budget of $109,000. I'm trying to figure out where all the money's going, to be honest with you.
Me too.
I mean, there's only 25 trees and maybe 100 shrubs, so that doesn't equate usually to $109,000.
We'll have to deal with the contractor on that. There may be some earthwork that's associated with that, some removal and replacement of the earthwork to accomplish the landscaping. I know the numbers that were in there were actually from our design development submittal and cost reconciliation. There's actually been more landscaping added since then, and we're currently reviewing the cost estimates from the contractor and from our estimator for the final cost estimate and reconciliation, which is actually happening this Friday.
Okay.
And I know that the landscape numbers in the contractor's budget exceed considerably that $109,000.
Is that number associated with the building to the north, I'll call it, because I forgot what building that is?
The engineering and industrial building?
Yeah, is it like all in the number, or is it?
No, that building had its own landscape plan.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. And then on the design of the Potentilla Fruticosa Gold Drop, did you guys have conversations with Mr. Denier on why there was just one row of vegetation used rather than 2 or 3? I'm a little concerned that if you're going to lose the design intent to show the geometry when 1 or 2 die or 3 or 4 die as things progress, whereas if you were to have 2 or 3 rows, you would continue the design theme as if 1 or 5 or however many die.
Oh, are you talking about the serpentine? Yeah, that was actually for the engineering project. That's not this project. That landscape.
I think there was some supplemental.
Is there some supplemental to it? Okay, so we may have impacted that. And right now, our understanding is that that was the intent, was just the one line. If you would like to add a condition.
Okay, thank you. And then I wasn't on the commission when the previous case went through, but there was a slew of comments and conditions. One of them was to include heights of evergreen trees at 10 foot and then deciduous trees 3 inches along UAA Drive. And
That's associated with the parking garage portion of the project. The previous site plan approval was for the engineering building and for the parking garage.
Construction for the parking garage has not begun, so they're just securing funding for that. So right now, all construction and improvements are only with the engineering building.
And that structure is going west of the engineering building?
The parking garage, yes.
Okay.
North.
Oh, north.
North of
okay.
the existing engineering building.
Okay.
And those plans are also in for plan review right now.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. Do we have any additional questions for the petitioner? Doesn't look like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would anybody from the public wish to testify? Okay. Doesn't look like it. You probably don't need rebuttal then. So this closes the public hearing portion of this case. The matter now rests with the commission. Can we get a motion to approve? Can I get a second? It has been moved to approve by Commissioner Sullivan and seconded by Commissioner Ream. Commissioner Sullivan, would you care to state your motion?
Yes, I move forward to approve case 2014-0062, public facility site plan review for the UA Help campus pedestrian bridge.
Thank you. And would you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, I think it's a great gateway for the university. It's articulating the site and promoting a walkable environment. It's helping break in the mass of the new School of Engineering, which that was one of my concerns in the last, I can see it now. And it's reducing dependence in driving. So I do like the project, and I would like to move towards approving.
And Commissioner Ream, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, I concur with Ms. Sullivan. I don't have anything else to add except that I am a graduate of the University of Alaska Anchorage, and I do recall walking cold days and nights in wintertime. And I think this is a great improvement, and all of the improvements to the engineering department specifically are something that I really do appreciate. I'm glad we have funding for it, and it's a beautiful bridge.
So additional discussion, Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I intend to support the motion. I appreciate the architecture that was conceived and the gateway concept. I think that works well in the area, and commend the petitioners on that. I would like to add 2 additional conditions of approval, which I will do now, and you guys will tell me if we need to vote on them or not. So condition, I believe we're on number 7, if all of them from the case packet carry through, is to provide evergreen trees at a height of 10 foot and deciduous trees with the caliper size of 3 inches along UAA Drive. Number 8, provide a double row of Potentilla fruticosa gold drop in the configuration shown on L101.
So is that a motion to amend?
Can we?
That would be a friendly amendment, yes.
Such a thing. You're going to get me on my horse again.
So I guess for Robert's rule, should I make a motion to add the 2 conditions? I supported the motion, and then I stated that I would like to make 2 additional conditions.
So it's a motion to amend. You need to do a motion to amend.
Okay, yeah. I would like to make a motion to amend.
Hit your button.
And is there a second? So we've had a motion to amend, adding 2 additional conditions from Commissioner Leonetti and seconded by Commissioner Sullivan. The conditions were evergreen trees at 10 feet and birch trees at 3-inch caliper. And then that was condition 7. And condition 8 was for a double row on the shrub design. Do you need to speak to your motion, or does what you
Just
said?
for clarity.
Okay.
No birch, just all deciduous trees.
Oh, you wanted to eliminate the birch trees?
No, deciduous trees, if they're planted, when they're planted, 3-inch caliber, whatever.
3-inch caliber deciduous trees. Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan, would you care to speak to your second?
I just move forward to amend the recommendations and add 7 and 8.
Commissioner Sullivan, would you care to discuss this motion to amend? Or Commissioner Sawhill, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I guess I do not support the additional condition number 7, but I do support the additional condition number 8. At the original hearing for the parking garage, we went with the additional caliper to soften the impacts of the parking garage, and that was an appropriate condition at that location, but I don't think that condition is appropriate at this location. So I would not support number 7, but I do believe the additional condition number 8 is appropriate. I think that's a good addition to the site plan and a reasonable thing for the applicant to do. So I would like to make a motion to amend the motion to delete item number 7.
And is there a second? There's a motion to delete condition number 7 by Commissioner Sawhill and a seconded by Commissioner Winchester. And it's been spoken about from Commissioner Sawhill. Commissioner Winchester, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, Madam Chair. I agree with Mr. Sawhill on the issue, and secondly, the issue of the evergreen trees is a concern, I know, around most school sites in terms of hiding derelicts and other people in the winter, and screening the ability to see. Don't mind the deciduous trees. The leaves fall off in the winter. You can see pretty good. Summer's okay. So I am going to support this amendment to delete number 7.
And Commissioner Leonetti?
I would just like to speak a little bit to the reasoning that I was upping the size of the trees. When you drive through there today, it's a pretty established border on the north side, and it's a fairly established vegetation in the middle that was planned 15 or so, 20 years ago. And to come in with small 1.5-inch caliper trees, they're going to get munched by moose. They're going to get destroyed, and before we know it, there's not going to be anything there. So by increasing the size of the trees, it does two things. It reestablishes the size and the effect along the north portion of the road around the Sky Bridge, as well as it prevents somewhat of some moose browsing. As habitual as moose are, nothing will prevent them from pruning trees. But larger caliper trees seem to take the heat a little bit better than smaller ones when their leaders get snapped. That was the intention behind that. And that's it. Thanks.
And I guess I'd like to put in my opinion on this one. I actually agree with Commissioner Sawhill. I intend to support his amendment, and part of my reasoning behind that is the fact that the smaller the trees are, the easier it is for them to adjust to the site. The larger they are, the harder it is for them to adjust to the site. So that you might get some faster growth out of them if you start with a smaller size, and better success rate on the plants. So that would be why I would also be. And then plus the other reason we voted for the larger trees was to help soften the huge parking garage that was going to be going in. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, can everybody please vote on the motion to amend to remove the moment to, for Commissioner Sawhill's amendment to remove condition number 7. So the motion to amend failed. So condition 7 is still in. So now we are on the motion to amend that Commissioner Leonetti added that will have both conditions 7 and 8.
Yep.
It has to be quorum. Quorum's 5.
Right. Yeah. It was 4-3.
So if everybody can please vote, we are now on Commissioner Leonetti's additions of condition 7 and condition 8.
Madam Chair, I have a question on that vote that just went through. It said on the screen to remove number 7. So that was the previous vote? Confused on what we just voted on.
The one we just voted on was, it might have just been the screen.
To add 7 and 8.
It was to add 7 and 8 as
Was his
conditions of
motion.
approval.
Okay, and how did that fare?
It failed.
Okay, so none of the votes, or none of the conditions are added then?
Correct.
Okay.
So now if we would like to make another motion.
I would like to make another motion.
Amend? Okay. Commissioner Leonetti.
I would like to make a motion to amend the conditions to include number 7, provide a double row of Potentilla fruticosa gold drop in the configuration shown on L1.01. Thank you.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion to amend by Commissioner Leonetti and a second by Commissioner Ream. Leonetti, would you like to speak to it anymore?
I said
Okay,
it.
you're good. Commissioner Ream, do you want to speak to your second?
I'm going to try to stay ahead of the game here. I'm a little confused. But I am hoping that I am voting to support the motion to add condition 7 to put a double row of shrubs. And that's it.
Do we have any additional discussion on the motion to amend to add condition 7 to add a double row of Potentilla shrubs? No discussion. Is there any objection? And that motion has passed.
Does?
I think we all voted.
Has everybody voted?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Thanks, Nicole. Okay, and that motion has passed. So now we are on the main motion for approval for 2014-0062. And who?
Monica gets to speak to her findings of fact.
Okay, that's where Monica was the original. Okay, Commissioner Sullivan, would you please speak to your findings of fact for approval?
Okay, I move forward to approve with my findings that I stated before, and also subject to recommendations 1 through 6, and adding number 7, which is adding a double row of shrubs. And that's it.
And Commissioner Ream, do you have anything to add for your second? This is on the main motion.
No, I support it as well. I concur with Sullivan.
Okay. And Commissioner Leonetti, with additional discussion?
Yes, just a question if there are enough findings of facts to document the findings of facts in the, what's it called, the resolution of approval.
Yeah. Do you have any more to add?
Careful what you ask for. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could add a couple, yes. Should we just go by numbers? Okay, we'll go by numbers. Number 1, the University of Alaska Anchorage is proposing to construct a pedestrian bridge spanning Providence Drive connecting the UAA Health Science buildings located between Piper Street and Spirit Drive on the south side of Providence Drive to the UAA Engineering and Industry building located east of Seawolf Drive on the north side of Providence Drive. Number 2, the skywalk will be enclosed in a climate-controlled pedestrian bridge spanning approximately 224 feet to connect the second level of the HSB with the third level of the EIB. The bottom of the bridge structure ranges from approximately 24 feet to 26 feet above the roadway surface below. Number 3, the University of Alaska Anchorage Campus Master Plan, dated 2013, identifies a future pedestrian connection spanning Providence Drive from the Engineering and Industry building to the HSB building, and the project is fully funded. Number 4, the support structures for the bridge will be located outside of the right-of-way, eliminating the need for will be located outside the right-of-way, period. Number 5, the project is located in the PLI district and is surrounded by institutional uses. Per Anchorage Municipal Code 2140.020C2, a skybridge is permitted as an accessory use or structure or desirable, let's just stop with as an accessory use or structure. And the last one, number 6. The University of Alaska Anchorage Campus Master Plan dated 2013 identifies a future pedestrian connection spanning Providence Drive from the engineering and industrial building to the health science building. And that will complete my findings of facts. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Do you have any additional discussion? Okay. Can everybody please vote on the motion 2014-0062? And that case has passed. Yay.
High school started a trend.
So that closes the public hearing portion of our meeting this evening. What are we going to do? Sharon, what do we need to do for the art? Do we just...
Angie, there she is. She snuck in when I wasn't looking.
Okay.
Yeah, she, she submitted that packet to me and that you got today of the 2 arts projects that are going in and the 2 art selections for Bartlett. Bartlett's getting 2 art pieces and Service High School is getting 2 art pieces. And I just ran across it today, but even if I'd seen it earlier, it wouldn't have made your packet anyway. So we sent it out to you earlier today, and then I asked Angie that this might be a good evening for her to come and introduce herself to you all and explain the art selection process and also talk about UDC's role in the reviewing these projects for safety and maintenance.
Thank you.
Is this the mic, I take it? Hi, everybody. I'm Angie Dema. I work with the Municipality 1% for Art program. You've probably seen some deaccessions last year from me, some additions to the, selections that are being made, and also I usually also ask for volunteers for different committees and juries. So those are the kind of roles that usually I have with UDC. Our selection process is such that it's by code. We are supposed to have 1 person from the architect, the design firm, 1 person from the facility, one professional artist on each committee, and also there's also if it's a student, an ASD project, we also have a student on the committee a lot of times, and then we'll have members of either this group, the UDC, the AAC, the Public Art Committee. We invite all sorts of different people to volunteer, so we have different people on each one, and they all are the body that decides and selects what art is going to be placed in a new facility that gets public art. So every time $250,000 or more goes into a building, 1% of construction costs get set aside for art. And if those budgets are above $1 million for construction, meaning $10,000 for artwork, then we have a jury that gets pulled together, that's assembled from as prescribed in the code. And then it goes through a regular process where we put out an RFQ, or a call for qualified artists, and we tell them what themes we want, where we want the art, when we need it, what kind of, the committee's deciding what kind of call it is. Is it an open call nationally? Is it a local call? And then once a piece of art, so once we get through the qualification round and we decide what everybody's, what kind of call it's going to be, we get back, depending on how big the call is, how open it is, we could get up to 200 people applying for a call. And so then those juries go through methodically and go through each submission. Local calls are more like, 30 to 50 usually. And then, so they'll go through those calls. They'll get it down to a smaller, more manageable list, usually 10 to 25, depending on the type of call. And then once it's to that smaller group, then we usually add our student on the board. We don't have them all the way through because it would be a little monotonous, I think, for them at times, and too much time away from studies. So the student comes on, we have a short list, so to speak, and we make selections based on how many locations in the building we've decided to put art. Most of the time, smaller budgets, it's usually at one piece per place, unless it's a school or an expansion, a large expansion, then it might be multiple pieces. And in the case of Girdwood, which is coming up, there's 6 locations. So those 6 will have any number of finalists from 2 to 3 per location. And then we ask the artists to come up with ideas. They have to show us proposals at that point, including a rendering of some kind, or drawing, or model, a narrative about that model, a budget, and a timeline. And then usually that takes about 6 weeks for us to make a call like that and give time to do the art. And then we reconvene and we go through everything, all the finalists, and hopefully we select somebody from those finalists. Sometimes we go back to the short list and we start again. So it just depends on, how good proposals are. So most of the time when you're hearing from me, it's when a selection is made. And that's kind of the process we go through to get to a selection. Once a piece needs to be retired, that's another time you'll hear from me. And my predecessor, Jocelyn Young, who maybe some of you know, was pretty conservative about doing deaccessions. She let things, we would look for things for years sometimes to make sure that they were actually gone, and talk to everybody who had been there or whatever, if something was missing or if it's damaged. We do a lot of research and let it sit for a little bit to make sure. When I came on board, I was a little naive probably, and started deaccessioning from the back of the list, everything that's been gone. So I went through and just started from the back of the list, and that's why you're seeing more deaccessions maybe than you had been before. And it's a good process to go through, and we should be taking out pieces that are unsafe or we can't maintain and don't look like the original artist intent. It's not looking like their work, so we really need to revisit things on a regular basis. When our program actually started in '78, so 35 years later, some of those early decisions we made were including having textiles suspended in school buildings and things like that, where 35 years really is the limit to textiles for the most part, unless they're protected in some other way. But anyway, I digress. So you'll see me on those kind of things. You'll hear from me, I should say, in this process. And Sharon and I are still working out kind of what vehicles you see and how I word things. And, in this process right now, what I'm requesting, or what I'm asking the commission for in selection process is reviewing each of the selections. And by code, we're supposed to do that within 10 days. So I'm always kind of in a rush. And, I'm also trying to get to contracts, and I have 20 construction projects going right now. So, you can imagine kind of how things back up or get moving fast or slow. And then, so once I'm coming to you, we've usually worked through some of the bugs. We have all the proposals in place. We're also putting them forward to the risk managers, the fire marshals, the AAC, the administration, the school board, depending on the budgets and everything and what it says in the code. We're following that. And so what I'm expecting is, or what the code asks or requires, is that all of these commissions and all these folks look at these ideas and looks at them with the goggles of maintenance and safety. Is this safe? Is it going to last? Do you have questions? I think, I got great feedback on the Buster Simpson table and things, so we were able to change things, and, the Public Art Committee came up with some things. This group came up with others. It's a great mechanism to make sure we're covering all our bases when we get to contract. So everything's covered in contract. So not to say that some ideas might just be wrong, too. So, that's your call. And you can make an objection to a piece based on maintenance or safety, and that anytime you kind of push that button or want that to happen, it'll go back to the Public Art Committee for a discussion, which is the kind of governing body that guides my work. And from there, it goes to the municipal manager, and he decides one way or another, usually depending on the, if who's backing who on what with Public Art Committee versus whatever commission or entity decides that they have an objection to a piece. So that's kind of how things run. We also, so once a piece is selected, usually the artist does not get paid. They get paid a proposal fee, usually. Most people get about $500 for that proposal fee, which pays for their time and efforts when they're putting together their proposal. And then, or $1,000 if it's up over 100,000. That it's kind of scaled, but so they get paid a small fee. So sometimes, engineering and everything isn't already worked out to a certain extent. So sometimes, what I'm looking for is comments too. Like, I hope you have an engineer look at blah, 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 or, so those are the kind of things I'm looking at. And those were the kind of comments I'm getting, actually, so that's great. I will be putting out a huge list of new projects coming up. So if you're interested in being on a jury and kind of seeing what happens and how it works, feel free to call me, email, tell me now, and I'll get you on a list. We have a lot of projects coming up. And then as far as deaccession, I'll still be probably more aggressive than my predecessor in making sure that what's out here is safe. And we have, I should say, 470 installations around the city. This isn't small numbers we're talking. So, there's going to be some mistakes made along the way, including, things disappearing, or because 470 installations with a $20,000 budget to care for per year doesn't quite match up. And I am writing grants and things to make things better and get preservation plans and things like that in place. But just so you know, I'm coming from a place where I'm trying to make the best art happen safely, maintenance, low maintenance, and I'm the person who has to take care of it. So that's my role on the committee, although I don't vote. I'm not a voting member of the roster, the jury, but I do say, I don't think that I can hear the risk manager's voice, or, what's being said, or, what costs too much to take care of, like a clock or a LED if it's under a certain budget, that kind of stuff. So that's my kind of role, and I'm, really the community curator. So I'm helping each unique group get to that end goal, and then this group I'm interacting with to make sure everything is maintenance and safety, it has those things in mind, and that we're also inclusive of the community and everything that should be happening based on the code and the intent of the law, which is to foster culture and art. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for me.
Commissioner Condon does.
And Ms. Dima, we reviewed some of your projects, when was it? A couple months ago.
Yeah.
Fire station, there was a
Fire
glass
Station
wall,
35.
There was
Mhm.
hung on the wall.
Right.
And you're saying we're supposed to review it for safety and maintenance, but the documents that we received, we really could not evaluate, say, the anchorage system on,
Right.
you know, the wall-mounted thing that you
Right.
sent us. And, you know, in order to really analyze a project for safety, we're going to need a lot more from you in terms of, you know, is it safety glass or is it not safety glass? Or can we just say that you are always going to have an engineer look at these projects to make sure that the anchorage system to the wall is correct? Because we're not here to do
Right.
that kind of evaluation.
Right.
So I felt like a lot of time was wasted going over what you had sent to us,
Okay.
because apparently all the issues had already been taken care of. So if you want a thorough analysis, you're going to have to send a lot more information, or you're going to have to sort of limit our scope of engagement and rely on your engineers to make sure that many of the safety issues are taken care of.
Right. I'm hearing you. I actually gave you a bunch of information, and while we were about to meet, a lot of those questions were answered, which is why some of that happened, and I also filled in the blanks, and I'll definitely in the future try to think, okay, who's already reviewed this and what have I heard back? If that's what I'm hearing, I feel like the risk manager is that person that I'm making sure sees those engineered drawings, and that it's attached to the contract, or, you know, or has a deliverable in the contract. So I guess I'm looking at this group not thinking that you're all risk managers or that you're all, but you're looking at it, you know, from your own context and giving your best, I guess, information. And I'll provide the best I can.
Myself, I am a registered architect, and if I
Right.
give you an opinion,
Right.
that is a legally binding opinion that
It
I have
is.
given you. So you can't really expect that kind of input.
So what happens after you give that kind of input is everybody who responded to me, I print their page out and I attach it to the contract with the information that makes, you know, that addresses that issue, if you see. So when I'm sending a contract packet, every person I hear from along the way, and, you know, it's not just this group, but, you know, other people. So anytime I'm hearing that there's an objection or a change that needs to be made, I'm printing those out. I understand they're a legal document, and that I'm bound by that to make sure it's safe then, and that information ends up in a contract, and that when I'm interacting with the artist, that they understand where the information's coming from, and that they have a professional on board. So when you say you want, you know, it needs to be a design professional, I'm making sure that that connection happens. They're talking to their design professional or their engineer, and that that information gets attached to the contract, which goes through risk, goes through OMB, it goes through, you know, all of the hoops that we have to. Is there, you know, other than, see, a lot of times I'm sending these packets out to 10 people at once, so I'm not going to have that information when I send it to you. So maybe I'm thinking, you know, on the fly, maybe I should just be here when you're reviewing one of my projects so that I can answer any questions so you're not spinning your wheels, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that might be a better approach rather than this sort of, just sort of inundating us with information that we really can't get a handle on.
Right. And usually I'm sending you the whole packet, so it's not like I'm keeping things out or anything, just so you know that.
Okay.
But some of those conversations where somebody's brought up a problem and I've addressed them, I've not necessarily shared that with the whole group that's reviewing. So I think being here will help in that endeavor if we're, getting to that point where we're reviewing something like this.
Okay.
The problem I'm having, though, is that, I understand you all are being taxed a lot in your time and your effort in this, and it seems hard to also get things timely, and I'm not sure what the timing I need ahead of time, or because a lot of times I'm getting pinched at the back end of things on contracts. So, I'm an advocate for an artist as well as, in the process, and as well as being somebody who's making sure that all these legally binding contracts and everything we're saying is recorded, and that we're doing what we need to do to make it safe and an effective program. So anyway, but I'd love to be part regularly because we have a lot of projects up and running. I'm a year and a half about into my job, and I'm just at full clip about now. So things are starting to move quicker, and there's going to be a lot more of this kind of, review. So I don't want to bog you down and give you too much information, but at the same time, I want to make sure I'm, following code. So that's where I'm coming from.
I think we have several more people who have questions for you. So Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Dima, thanks for coming out. It's great to see you, and it's good to hear your challenges and your goals and to kind of work through those. For scheduling, maybe Ms. Ferguson can help us with that. I presumed that everybody was on the same schedule when we review packets, and I presume that with you as well, coming from the municipality. I think that one of the important critical fundamentals of the commission is that everybody is held to the same standard. And by that I mean Joe, gas station owner, wants to get a highway screening landscape approved. He's held to the same standard as the big developer that's coming through that's putting in a 100,000 square foot mall.
Yeah.
And so I that was kind of my challenge when I was reading through these things. It's like, this is unique. Why are we getting these right now? And okay, schedule's mishap, then okay, we'll help out a little bit here. Okay, that's fine. And so I think if we could get that ironed out, and then if you come and present, I think that would probably eliminate a lot of
I think you're right. Yeah.
And so, Sharon, it's like 6 weeks in advance, or is it like a month in advance? The new code is like shorter turn, so maybe we can use that instead of the old code?
Well, I think the situation is that Angie doesn't have this information that far ahead. And the other point of it is that what she's asking for the UDC to review these for safety and maintenance, it doesn't rise to the same level as if we were reviewing a case. So it's not going to be as, shall we say, formal as a case review is, that it's going to be a more informal process. But Angie and I do see, we have been talking to see if there's, a way that we can make this process a little bit smoother for you all, for all of us, concerned with this. And we've made some improvements in that since we started talking about that, but probably bears a little more talking about it. And so we're going to do that and see if we can come to some, as I said, try and make this a smoother process for you all.
Great, that would be awesome. So what is your schedule? You said you had a 10 days per code, review within 10 days per code.
So there is a timeliness to the code as well. We're supposed to have reviewed everything in 10 days, all of those entities, which is, not possible.
And when does that clock
So
start?
so it's within 10 days of the selection, which, you know, I have like 3-4 days just in getting everything prepared and pulled together. Sometimes less than that, but, and then off to everybody, because if there is, you know, 10 entities I'm writing memos to, and usually those also have to go through a cadre of people in my office before they get out of the building. So it's virtually impossible what's in the code, to tell you the truth. So there is kind of a timeliness. So, and usually, you know, this is our last phase before contracting, and sometimes I'm getting pressured from people opening a building. They want the art in the building when the building opens, but yet I've got project managers not wanting me to come on too early. They want me to stay, you know, because they don't have their budgets yet. It's all, you know, it's rife for this kind of issue.
So does the review, our quote-unquote UDC review, hold up installation?
Say again, sorry.
Does the quote-unquote review by UDC, if it's not done, does it hold up an installation, like prevent the installation from happening?
It holds up the contract from happening, you know, until I hear back. I think my predecessor, I talked to her today to see if she was having similar issues, and it sounds like she gave a certain deadline on her memos and just assumed everybody had reviewed it by then. I'm kind of more of a, I follow rules, really like stickler almost, so I'm like following through to make sure that everybody's reviewed it and that they, you know, any safety or maintenance that they have been communicated to me, so that I'm not doing something I shouldn't be. So that's kind of the conundrum I'm in. And so I think, you know, being here when we're reviewing, but you're probably going to see more of me then, is what I guess I'm getting at too, because I've already got 2 more selections that were just made last week. I've got 4 more almost ready, so.
Okay, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Commissioner Winchester.
Hi there.
Hi.
Welcome, Angela. And
Thanks.
I've worked with your predecessor a lot on
Excellent.
1% Art committees and sat on many of them. And very familiar with the frustration that you deal with, both getting the committees together and getting the committees to select, and timeliness of all of that process along with the building. And having been the architect on many of those buildings, that's always a challenge as well. So I certainly commiserate with where this process is, and have been involved in it. And as your predecessor did say, and I used to support that as a member on the art selection committees, if people didn't respond within the timeliness of the letter that went out, the assumption was it was approved.
Right.
I do think that the process you're trying to establish is a better one in terms of really getting some input from this group of pretty distinguished professionals and people outside the loop. I think it would be great to have some of us on art selection committees, and I would put my name forward to be on some of those committees, because I think that was one of the things I saw in the committee was sometimes they were kind of closed within a particular project group. You know, the student, the teacher, the principal, the architect, or whatever, and there maybe wasn't a representation at large on those art selection committees. Not that I disagreed or agreed with any of them. Looking at the ones that you put before us tonight, I have some of these I have concerns about.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Dust being one on the one that has the polyacrylic skylight light pieces. That thing is going to be extremely dirty very quickly. And we've done some polycarbonate art pieces before, and they look pretty bad within 2 or 3 years, and they don't have the ability to clean them. So, you know, just passing on some things there that I've watched in the past.
Is that the Osman Akon piece that you're talking about? Okay.
Well, they're changing from glass to polycarbonate, which is going to be even worse in terms of collecting dust. And there's no budget in the janitor facilities at these kinds of facilities. Schools certainly could go out there and training to put up the lift and clean that thing once a year.
And what products to use and not to use.
Exactly.
Conservation.
So, you know, and those are things that unfortunately are, you know, this is like long after the fact. The selection's been made, they selected an artist, they've got a piece already put forward, and now we come along and say, but what about this? And so it seems like we're really kind of at the end of the train when in some ways we ought to be kind of up front a little more, and part of the committees or somehow. To integrate there so we can put those things in when that committee is making those selections rather than where we are now.
Right.
I don't know how that orchestrates within the code and the way it worked, but certainly I was a pretty outspoken person on the art selection committees I was on for the very issues that UDC is being asked to review for, which were safety issues, cleaning issues, all these other things that maybe the average principal or student or teacher at a high school doesn't take into account when they're saying, wow, that's just a really beautiful direction to go for a piece of art.
Right.
So those are my comments.
Yeah.
Would welcome, like I say, to sit in on some committees, and perhaps we can find a way to engage the members of this board a little earlier, because I do think everyone here has expertise to add to that event at an earlier stage than at the end. Here's what we've already selected.
Right.
And now we've got to sort of say, well, what about this? What about that?
So there is, every time I do start a new committee, I do send out a memo to this group requesting volunteers, and also to the Arts Advisory Commission, the Public Art Committee, all of those entities. And you might remember prior to 2011, actually, it was required that somebody sit on each committee from the Urban Design Commission. And that we still really don't understand how it got removed from the code, but somehow that did. And as well as the Art Advisory Committee, that same thing happened. And we, it was changed over to municipal representatives. And I think I've also sent you kind of my code revision ideas as well, which, addresses some of that. But, I'm not sure I'm not sure if everybody feels that way, that they'd want to be on committees, because I'm sure, it's a lot of work to be on a commission like this, and, having that extra duty might be, you might be one of, a few on the committee who might do that. So, I'm not sure if it's that we should require somebody be on there or not, or if we should have that conversation at some point. Because I think that would be great if we had a person on each committee from this commission, of distinguished professionals. I think it would be fantastic. So,
Commissioner Sullivan.
I apologize. I haven't been very proactive, but I will be proactive. I see your issue. I think I can help.
Excellent.
I'm just wondering if doing some sort of language that will be a little more strict for the submissions, like, I don't know, like submitting material properties, technical stuff, like if the materials are flammable, smoke spread. I don't know if there's some way to put more input into what goes out there for the artists to submit, so they just don't throw a lot of material, and then probably you'll get a little less submissions and better submissions, and that will be a way to think ahead, like this polycarbonate submission, for instance. I'm looking at that. I don't know the properties of this material very well, so it would be nice if I get a little more information, because I don't know. I mean, I know that it's not going to be as dangerous as glass. There's a lot of issues with when you hang things in the ceiling. We often have to brace everything structurally, and sometimes you require sprinklers. I mean, I just think that if people is required to add more technical into their submissions information, that might help you to reduce the amount of work.
I'm willing to try it. If this body has ideas, I'm definitely willing to try whatever will work. So,
Sharon, did you have something for us?
Thank you. Angie, can you tell the commissioners just typically how much time would be involved if they were to volunteer to be on a jury selection?
Sure. So normally, first things that happen on a selection. So we have 3 actually in the next week that are starting up at West, Romig, and at Aurora Elementary out on base. And so the first meeting we'll have is just with the architect and the facility manager, and usually we're locating the right spot for where art should be in the building, where there's a big blank wall or whatever it is that we want, an exterior piece. And then shortly after that, we have the whole jury roster, come together. And usually it's about 4 meetings to get to a place where we can put out an RFQ. So we're calling for artists. So we're answering the questions, what kind of call are we doing? What places are we going to place the art? What's the theme that we're looking at? What's the time frame? All of those kind of issues. And then, so we have 4 meetings. We put out our call, and we give the artists about 5 or 6 weeks to reply to that call. So there's 4-hour meetings in a row weekly, and then about 6 weeks off. And then after that, there's about, it depends on the kind of call and how many submissions we get. 40 might take actually 3 meetings, whereas 180, which we had on the service job, took about 10 meetings. So of just looking through submissions. And then once that's done, once we've kind of honed our list down and we have our finalists, then we take another 6-week hiatus. So it's 4 meetings, 6 weeks off, 2 to 10 meetings, 6 weeks off. And then we get back together, we look at all the proposals. It's usually a meeting or 2. And then it's selection, or we throw all the ideas out and go back to the short list, which does happen. And it's, not, I would say 20% of the time or 25% of the time we're actually going back to the drawing board or having a new proposal from that person for a different piece, something like that, So really, that's about it. Once we have our selection in place, we meet one more time when the art is installed to look at it and have a tour and a small kind of dedication. So it's then accepted into the program. So that's some of these, though, depending on sometimes construction projects will be going forward full gun, as you know, all of a sudden stop and nothing. So some of these committees meet for years. So, everyone is kind of different, but generally it's pretty 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 to 10, 6 weeks off. So it's kind of a little squirrely, but that's generally how it goes.
I don't think we have any more questions.
Well, thanks, everybody.
I was just wondering, does the commission have any specific questions about the, what she has sent and for the Bartlett High School and the Service High School? Do you feel comfortable in giving any input to Angie now rather than later?
I can go through the different ones because I've already heard from the Public Art Committee on which ones they have issues with to kind of tell you what we're already addressing. On the, I guess if we start on the Debbie Dickinson piece for Bartlett, which is a stone and glass mosaic piece that'll go on their west wall inside the west entrance if commissioned. The one thing we're paying attention to is where that will be placed. We're probably thinking up a little high, out of reach, but not quite. So we can still see it, and the artist actually will be coating it as well so that it can be touched. So that was, the Public Art Committee wanted to make sure it was, we also talked to the artist about shipping, because when she sent her model, a part broke, so we talked to her already about that. Yeah, it's, I think that was most of our concerns for that one. And then there's been also concerns about the Bartlett High School outdoor mural from our Public Art Committee, and that was that the building facade is not in a good shape to paint on because it's pretty old paint, and so we're actually, we have money set aside to prep the building first and also to coat it with an airplane UV protectant over the whole thing as well. So that'll be separate. So that's, you know, one of the issues we have is making sure the longevity of this piece can last 15 to 20 years. So that was the concern of the Public Art Committee. It's actually also, the jury talked about it as well. So, and then with the Osmond Acon piece, we didn't bring up the polycarbonate piece as a dust collector, so that's good to know that it is, and that we need to think about how to deal with that. It's also, you know, there are concerns. We're going to be reviewing what, you know, who the lights are coming from, the specs. All that, we'll be paying real close attention to that because, as you know, probably LED's pretty young and some of them are being recalled. So we'll be looking through that as well. And that's one of the things we've talked about as a Public Art Committee that we'll be addressing. And the final piece, the Natalie Blake ceramic piece, which is kind of hard to understand from this collection of photos. But if you look at this rendering, this is a sketch of her artwork, and she'll be looking at the flora and fauna, and her actual designs will look more like this. This is a mock-up of one of the 10 columns. So it'll be in this style, but these are, she's just showing us that she'd do 10 different columns. And then with this piece, the one maintenance concern we have is obviously blunt force trauma being that it's a multi-purpose room with balls. Part of the reason we picked ceramic was because it is hardy, and it'll also be up higher, and we're actually waiting on the measurements for the tables once they're pushed against the wall to see how tall they will be, the new tables, to make sure that that piece is actually above that area, because I've seen that a lot where people push the cafeteria tables into a piece of art or something. So that's one thing we're aware of and dealing with. So those are the few things we've talked about in the Public Art Committee.
Commissioner Sullivan?
I would just like to add a comment to that first studio, Osman Acon. Seems like a pretty big structure. It's aluminum, and I think you should have a note that asks how they're going to brace it back for lateral movement.
I should tell you, I've also talked to the risk manager about that one. She actually brought that same thing up, and I noticed in his proposal that he was actually hoping to do that, you know, while being paid to get engineered drawings while he's under contract. So I've actually asked the risk manager to see if she can say contingent upon review of those engineered drawings before the second payment, to try to really specify, you know, once he's got enough money to do an engineered drawing through the contract, then requiring that. So that is being dealt with. Sorry, forgot.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Are we supposed to just provide feedback in this forum? I know we're not making a motion, but how has it been dealt with in the past? Do we just comment and then, okay, thanks, we're done, we're good?
Yeah,
Or is there
it's
formal?
just, I think it's just feedback.
Okay, so just
It
comment
is.
here
Yeah.
and we do just the meeting minutes document it and then you're good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, thanks.
I guess procedurally, hasn't this been on the consent agenda in the past? Just presented there, and
We may have.
We have an
at some
opportunity
point.
to
Some of them
comment.
have, I don't know, did we submit one that, yes, because I remember emailing you saying, I'm not sure if we ever had one on the consent agenda. Can anyone remember?
I remember having them on the agenda, and I can't remember where they were. And I know it just kind of came up. Did anyone have any questions or comments? And no one did, and I don't think we ever took a motion.
Yeah,
And then it just breezes through.
I don't remember. I don't know.
So what's the code requirement? What does the code require us to do?
So let me read the code for you. I brought it. Not the whole thing, obviously.
Please. 1 or 2 sentences.
So this is from Municipal Regulation 7.40.004, Section 8H. Gives guidance on who reviews selected works as follows. Within 5 working days after rendering a decision, a jury shall provide written notice of its selection to the Urban Design Commission, the Anchorage Art Advisory Commission, the Historical and Fine Arts Commission, the Public Art Committee, and the administration. Neither a commission nor the administration may reject a jury selection except as provided in subsection G of this section. Subsection G reads, a user department or Anchorage School District may object to the selection of a particular piece of artwork for technical reasons related to maintenance and safety by filing the objection with the Public Art Committee before the municipality has obligated itself to purchase or commission a work of art. If the Public Art Committee confirms the jury's selection, the user department or Anchorage School District may, within 10 working days, submit the matter to the administration or Anchorage School Board in the case of school facilities for a final decision. The mayor or his designee shall render a decision within 10 working days. If the mayor or his designee rejects the jury's selection for technical reasons, the jury shall continue the selection process. So those are the 2 excerpts from the regulations that deal directly with our interaction and what we're supposed to be working on collaboratively.
So we need to either accept it or reject it.
Right.
Or make recommendations for changes to
Right.
reasons.
And I'm very open to obviously accepting changes or, being aware of certain types of situations we might run into because it saves us headaches down the run. Yeah.
So I guess, does anybody have any different exceptions or rejections that we need to add or comments for? Okay. That's all we need to do, right? We don't have to vote. We don't have to, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no vote or anything. I just make sure it's been discussed and then Sharon usually signs a little form for me saying that you've reviewed it. And that's a new thing I added just to make sure I know when it's been talked about. So I have two changes then from Sullivan, Monica Sullivan, the engineer drawings, just reiterating that change or issue, and then from Mr. Winchester on the Osmond Acon piece with the dust. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks for coming in. Okay, so I think that leaves us with electing officers. Do we have to motions to elect? Okay. Can we get a motion for chair? Commissioner Sullivan?
stay in the chair since she started half away. And Monica Emerton, I'm taking up. Monica Emerton, because I think she's doing a good job, and we did not saw the 1 year pass. I mean, we were wondering why it went so fast. So I think her time is now due. So I move forward to re-elect her for the chair. And I think I can keep being the vice chair, and when she gets out, I could go up, and then someone else can take the vice chair. And that way we all experience sitting there and understand the process more.
So we have a motion to elect Monica Emerton as chair by Commissioner Sullivan, seconded by Commissioner Winchester. And I'm fine with that. Do we have any additional discussion? Any objection to me? Okay. 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 And do we need a motion to elect Commissioner Sullivan as vice chair? Can I have a motion to elect Commissioner Sullivan as vice chair? So we have a motion from Commissioner Winchester.
I'd like to move to make Monica Sullivan vice chair. I think done a great job. I've been at several meetings and been here a while, and you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up.
We have a motion from Commissioner Winchester, seconded by Commissioner Ream. Do we have any objections? Discussion? Okay. Congratulations, Monica Sullivan. Do we have to elect anybody else? No. So that takes care of elections of officers. I think we have any reports. Do we have any additional Commissioner comments? Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes, I would like to talk about the disclosures, the start of the meeting. When we decide that there's an issue or not, that they have a financial interest. For instance, I've been recused before because there's some work from my office that it's up there, and I don't have any financial tie. I would really think that I would do a good job reviewing, because we're here to do the right and not to support my company. But today, for instance, there was, Nicole, one of your projects of your office?
No, I'm managing one of the, Michelle Ritter, representing, is also part of the graphic communication.
So it's a similar thing that Joe works for the university. It's just like I'm just trying to understand, because I think he would have done a great job. I don't think he has a financial, so I was just like, why wouldn't he participate? So how do we move forward with these disclosures? Because it's confusing.
If I could jump in. There's two things. There's clear financial interest in a case before us, and I believe there's also the appearance of a conflict of interest that we've got to acknowledge and deal with the public. I don't have any doubt that Joel, as an ethical person, would have took a look at it in a clear light and acted fairly in that case. But again, I see a financial connection between him and his employer, who is the applicant. So I saw a financial connection there. And I just think it would be better for a university employee not to act on a university request. I do believe you have a conflict of interest when your firm is here representing and presenting a case. I don't know how you vote against your firm and their client.
I will.
And again, I believe you're a very ethical person, and I believe you would stand back, and you probably never discussed it at the water cooler or anything, but I think it would leave an appearance of a conflict that is not personal to you, but I just think it's good to keep it clean and above board. And as we get into more controversial and difficult cases, we don't want to leave opportunities for appeals based on process, and we want to, keep the board at a high ethical level and maintain high standards.
Okay, and then another question is, wait, I forgot, and it's important.
Well, while you think about that, I'll chime in. I have the same thoughts, and nothing really is a problem until there's a controversial project. Like if we have everybody on the commission vote yay for something, and Mr. Condon is on it, and there's no problem, there's no controversy, it goes under the bridge. If there's a controversial project rolls in here and there's a 5-4 vote and he votes in favor, then it's a pretty sticky scenario that, oh, well, he is currently employed by UAA, so they stack the deck to get it approved, quote unquote. So that's why I was not supporting it today.
And then another thing that I see as an issue is that sometimes when it's a small city, and I know Dwayne and Terry and Tanya very well, very well. Like I go and have drinks with them. So when we are saying,
Knowing them is not a conflict.
yes,
Right.
so I don't think we should, like you.
Well, I was employed by him. I mean, Denier was my boss. He's not here. But I mean, I was employed by him. I'm currently under contract with him on some of the things, and so I'd rather have full disclosure than not.
So does that mean that if I am working with that petitioner on another case or another project, I don't need to disclose that?
No, I think you should disclose it. Absolutely. I don't think we'll recuse you, but it's good that everybody out there knows that you happen to be.
Well, you know how many disclosures will be that night? I mean, I will have to do it every time I come here. But, I mean, that's okay, but that will enlarge the process. And sometimes it gets very tedious. So that was my, but if you guys think that we need to disclosure everything, then
I don't believe you do. I believe if you know somebody, it's not necessarily a conflict and doesn't require a disclosure. That's my personal opinion. And part of it is the individual's comfort level.
Yeah.
If you have a closer tie and you really feel that needs to be on the record, I think it's appropriate. But, just like you say, I know Dwayne.
And I think just because you've worked with them on a project 3 years ago doesn't mean that, you necessarily have to disclose it. As long as you don't have any involvement in the, in the case before us, in the project before us.
Sorry about enlarging, but
that's all right.
need to clarify things.
So, but I'm interested in that time frame because
I just made up 3 years.
Right,
I mean, it doesn't have any meaning. It's just,
it's a comfort level.
I mean, it's a small community, as Monica said. We're all of you are going to work, and everybody knows each other, and some of you have had past working relationships with each other. But if you're not currently involved in that project that we're reviewing, then I don't know that you need to disclose it.
But if you have current active projects with that client, I think you should disclose it.
Correct.
Yeah,
I guess the
But
timeline,
not pertaining to this case.
so I
you
guess
could say
the timeline would be that project is done.
Right.
So,
Right. But if you're currently working on them on some other project, then you could disclose it. But as Ed said, they probably wouldn't,
Right.
But not necessary.
No, I think it's necessary when you have an active project with that client.
Okay, then I'd be messing up the whole time.
It's a lawyerdom. Like if a lawyer can get a hold of it and somehow sway it the opposite direction you're voting, then disclose it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Winchester, did you have more to add?
Not really. I just agree with Mr. Sawhill more that, the personal contacts are absolutely not a requirement. Disclose everybody you know in the room. I mean, that's just,
Popularity.
It's purely financial interest that I think the one with Mr. Condon was, kind of back and forth. I didn't feel he had any particular direct relationship to this project. And I think that my vote was that he's a professional. He can make a decision on an architectural project that he has absolutely nothing to do with, even though he's employed by the university. I think that, to me, was okay. I really didn't have a problem with it. And I think we as a board are going to have to judge that each time, too. How many commissioners are there here? Do we have a quorum if we take 2 people out?
A little looser when we have
we have to look at this and say, wait a minute, we're not just going to shut this case down because a couple of us have a potential. Then we just have to say, hey, we're going to move forward and make some decisions, and then if it's an appeal, it's an appeal. I think most of the cases we find are not 5-4 decisions. They're pretty unanimous once we get all the pieces on the table and whatever. So again, judging whether it's controversial, as you mentioned, is a big issue. If you know this is a controversial case and you know you have some real, PC connections, definitely got to disclose, and then you may need to get recused because we don't want to have a real controversial case find its way to the top. And I think we're all going to know when those controversial cases show up, the place is going to be packed full. We're going to hear, there's a lot of those things are going to happen. So anyway, a few comments.
Do we have any additional commissioner comments? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Sorry.
Madam Chair, I've got one thing I want to say. It was about Ed tonight, and this is the only time I've seen Ed do it, where he comes prepared with the findings. How do you all feel about that? Is that working for you?
Too much?
Well, that was my question. That's my question. Is it too much, or do you all appreciate having it, spelled out like that? And if so, then if you've got them pre-prepared, then I'll just ask you if you could send me those findings.
Yes, that's
because they have to go, because what he's saying is what we would have written as, planners in writing the resolution.
Right, and let me kind of explain why I did that. I went through the minutes from before I was on the commission and it just happened that there were some resolutions of approval from those. I read the minutes and I read the approvals. I was like, oh, that sounds just like what we have, except there's actually findings of facts right there. So I was like, well, how does that actually get in there? And then I went and looked at ours, and they're not in there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to go through here and interpret what I think is a finding of fact, and I'm just going to read it. Yeah. And maybe that was too much, but I thought I would just throw it out there for thoughts, and I thank you, Sharon, for bringing it up. And I am interested in what everybody else's opinion is, if it's too much or if they're thinking that the findings of facts are extrapolated from the case packet and then included, and that I'm just not seeing those ones.
Will be there a way that you can refer to that other document and say, dated?
But there aren't actually facts, findings of facts. Like in Sharon's, it was a discussion, I think it's called.
Right.
And in the other one, there was just project. There isn't a title that says findings of facts.
Okay.
Well,
So
being one of the previous commissioners, we were extremely encouraged to have findings of fact. Mr. Sawhill and Ms. Sullivan, both of you, were part of that, where, somebody has to state some of those. To just say we all like the project approved wasn't really enough in terms of being able to have something that was an appealable document or something that people could read and say, oh, well, these people really deliberated on all of these various issues that were put before them. So we have to actually have findings of fact. So I was really happy that you were jumping in tonight. If you didn't, I was going to, because I think you have to have a half a dozen or some number that you really say, these are the main reasons why we think this is an appropriate decision. And you don't have to have 50, some reasonable number. And certainly there have been times when we've had findings of fact, and Monica, you remember that, and both Monica, where they were not in there. We found some facts that we made a decision based on that was not even in the list. So these tonight were pretty much, there's the list, and we'll just read some of them into the record.
Yeah,
but I think we have to read those into the record, is what I say, and I agree with what you did tonight, and I think we need to do that on each decision.
I would agree. I think we can always improve on our findings.
Yeah.
And we don't really express often enough why we're making our decisions.
Right.
Our findings typically need to be targeted to the criteria we review the case based on. There's the criteria, and staff has done listed the criteria in their analysis of whether it meets it or not. Our findings should be tailored to that. Our findings should be tailored to the policies and goals of the comp plan that have been met with that particular case. And again, a lot of those are often outlined in the case. So our findings should be tailored to the criteria we're reviewing it for. Again, I thought Ed jumping in with findings was great. I think maybe he went a little this side, and we've been over on this side, and we're going to find some appropriate medium, and keep our secretary, not crazy trying to type them all. We want to work with her.
Actually, I did findings too today,
Yeah,
which
you did.
is like my first time, and they were over the university plan, and I was very brief. So maybe I'm short.
Yeah, and again, a lot of times our findings, we concur with the analysis of staff, and if there's any of the findings that you want to expand on, I particularly feel that they've done a good job of designing conforming to the site, maintaining landscaping, some of the things that were important to you in reviewing the case. It's good to go ahead and expand on.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. So the first case I was familiar with, and I just went through the things that I agreed with. The second case I wasn't as familiar with, but I had kind of cliff noted some things in there, and it was more challenging. And to be honest with you, I don't know. Like when I made the motion, I knew it was clear to do that. But when you don't make the motion, you just speak to the motion as a commissioner, and then you state the findings as a commissioner then? And is it an amendment, or is it
basically, the maker of the motion speaks to their motion, the second has an opportunity, and then that's the opportunity for other commissioners to jump in and enter additional findings. You don't have to amend, you can just discuss it.
Okay. And then someone needs to do a motion to amend.
Well, if you add a condition.
You don't have to amend it. You can just say, hey, I like this project, and here's why. I find this, I find that, it meets this standard, it meets this policy.
But if you want to add recommendations, then you need to.
Right, then you amend. Yeah.
We got lots of practice at that tonight.
Yeah.
We need practice on that one.
And then the amend.
Yeah, we need
did
practice
good.
on that one.
Yeah. Got back to the amendment and then re-amended.
So, Ed, did you already previously have those written down, what you were going to say your findings?
I just went through the case packet and just
outlined what was
cross things
already
out I
in there.
wasn't going to say and underline things. I mean, I can certainly give you guys the case packets, and I mean,
if you have a case pass it and you've highlighted it, I think the secretary.
Yeah, because we have to, listen to the tape, write them down, listen to the tape, write them down. It's really laborious.
It's copy paste out of. I mean, it's pretty simple.
So that's
yeah, that would be great.
That was something that we can do if we're making the motion and we are performing the findings of fact. Is to take a yellow highlighter and go through what the ones are that we're using, and that way it makes it easier for you to just say, oh, well, there's the 8 things that they commented on. No, let's make it easy on you, really.
No, I have it all like.
So that was your really question was, can we make this easier on us?
Well,
Okay.
it was both that and do the commissioners like that process? And if so, we'll do it.
I think it's a great process because then, we go on record at the meeting.
Right.
Yeah, we like what Sam
Yeah.
said. Yes. Or no.
Yeah. And if I may have one more question, Fred. Sure. On the university project, when you wanted a double row of the shrubs, did you mean, so there's already one row.
Right.
So did you mean you wanted 2 rows, or you wanted, because you said add a double row, so it's going to ultimately be 3 rows, or?
No, just 2.
Just 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, that was probably not clear. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was just the two rows of the spire.
Okay. I think, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. If we don't have any more, then can we get a motion to adjourn? And a second. It's been motioned to adjourn by Jerry Winchester, seconded by, or Commissioner Winchester, seconded by Commissioner Ream. And unless there's any objections, we are adjourned.
Good Lord, that was long.